Scaries. Uh, Thanks to Laura. I think it was a really creative topic, subject line, but more importantly, working here at Practice Match now and formerly being the director of client sourcing for 3 years, I have seen a lot nationally with different clients in all different specialties. I moved into a new role to consult with organizations here at Practice Match and anyone outside of our organization to help them energize their physician and APP recruitment. So today, one of the things that we're gonna be able to talk about is a bit about engaging candidates, what's working, more importantly, what we see nationally, what we've seen from our client base, and really calling out what we've now seen for a couple of years. And I've also experienced this as well as a physician recruitment director at a hospital system in Cleveland, Ohio. Did that for 7 years. So, I've definitely lived this world and also have seen it now again all over the country. So the September scaries, as we called it, do happen. And what we mean by that is simply if you're on the call, I'm sure you've experienced the fact that you've got to September, maybe October, and you realized your recruitment goals for your physicians and advanced practice providers, the numbers aren't there. What we've seen last couple of years, as we've seen a lot of activity from the client sourcing team here to be able to really put a hard push, a fast push on, and trying to close out and find candidates for open positions that organizations have. The problem with that is that it's pretty common. It is not unusual to see that again all over the country, all different specialties. So, today's webinar then is to give you a leg up and an opportunity to say, if you don't want to get caught up into that rush, you don't have to. Sure, there are going to be opportunities that are going to be open still, but the idea here is to get as many off the plate as possible, and so you can spend more time and energy on those that are challenging. My personal opinion of what I've seen as a director, and more importantly, what I have seen all over the country, there are physicians that are interested in any opportunity. Some are harder to fill than others in terms of length of time, but I have seen physicians take roles in rural America, in places like North Dakota, right, and also in Chicago and some of the hot places as well. The timing is a bit different, but we do see physicians are interested in opportunities everywhere. Even found physicians who are interested in an opportunity halfway between Des Moines, Iowa, and Omaha, Nebraska. So they're there. It's a matter of just having the time and the great process to actually get them engaged. So enough about all that. We'll move on to the next slide. So I talked about what we were seeing, right? But more importantly, I love saying this line a lot: 1 point doesn't make a trend. So I do want to make sure that we're all on the same page there, which is, not to panic if you see something out of the ordinary. Things happen, things pop up. 1 point doesn't make a trend. But I think it's also important to be able to connect the dots. And if you're seeing something in your recruiting process, in your engagement with your candidates, and you definitely have multiple points and they're very similar, I would say that makes a trend. And then the last thing is, having a strategy and having an approach to sourcing and to recruiting and to moving candidates through the pipeline to the offer stage is really, where we'll stay focused today. As we know, when the candidate gets to that offer stage and has an offer or contract in hand, I'm sure you'll agree that many of you have seen the fact that the game changes a little bit. Sometimes things come up from the candidate you hadn't heard before, or the timing then becomes more of it's in the hands of the candidate. So today, what we'll talk about is everything up to the offer stage. And again, having the strategy is one thing, right? Executing is another. Again, it takes time, it takes discipline, but it can happen. Here at Practice Match with the client sourcing team, we've gone through many iterations of strategy and execution, but we kept building on it and becoming more refined and more successful and more efficient at it. I kind of like this, right? So when you call uncle, right? When do you know when you're assessing your current strategy that the September scaries are going to show up, right? Or when do you call uncle to say, you know what, it's about time, that I look at a different approach to our sourcing process, right? And I'm not talking about having to have the ability to spend a lot of money here. It's about really what we've been doing here at Practice Match and what I did in Cleveland is just making subtle changes, pivots, maybe some step changes that really make a difference. And really, I mean, I think you all have it, right? I mean, if you haven't written it down, if you don't have it, data specific, but you know where you were this time last year. If some of the specialties may have changed, sure, but you know where you were last year. And if last year you're like thinking to yourself, man, I'm coming up on hitting my targets for this year, and last year it looked the same. I think it's time to say, hey, maybe I, call uncle. And what I mean by that is to maybe look at a different way to approach the recruiting strategy, the way that the pipeline is being managed. The second thing, benchmarking data is awesome. When I was in Cleveland, I attended my first what is now a PPR event, and they were coming out with their annual report. We don't have any specific ties to APPR as Practice Match. I don't either, but I do want to say that benchmarking report is available to you if you're a member or not. And more importantly, I think it's nice because it is very specific to us as recruiters, and it does give you some insight. It is based on who participates in it, so you take it with a grain of salt. But I think it's pretty interesting, and we have a little bit of that in the presentation today to show it to you because it helps. It helps you know whether, hey, you're on track, you're off track, or how you doing compared to others. But benchmarking is a huge piece for sure. And you have data in your organization right now. Some of you have it. Some of you are very good at it. And so use it. And then the last thing too is we definitely see this as a huge advantage of candidate sourcing patterns, and really just in your organization, looking back on the last 2 years, last 8 months, right, and having you definitely have patterns there, where they're coming from, right? What states they're relocating from, what's attracting, the candidates to your organization. That data is there. The sourcing patterns are there. The ones that say yes, there's a tip that's typical candidate profile that you have. Again, it's all about having an understanding. Now, I got a quick story for you that kind of put the fear into me when I was in Cleveland. I thought I had a pretty good mousetrap in terms of being able to attract candidates and hire them. We exceeded our goals on an annual basis the whole time I was there. But I got nervous one year. It was in 2021 when a couple of candidates, right? So this is one point, doesn't make a trend, but a couple of candidates, actually a few candidates, had said to me, well, I'm reaching out to you and I'm interested in your job. I was not aware of it. And that really caught my attention. And it was something that I had never heard before. They said I was not aware of your job openings. And I thought I had it all locked up. I thought I had, like I said, the best mousetrap ever to be able to communicate, advertise, and find candidates. And that I took notice of that and really dug back into how I was working our process and how that was happening. So again, I think one of the things that we are seeing too is the candidate pool is very elusive. If you can imagine, like this big school of fish, as you've seen in in the movie or or anything, you have that mentality, right, of looking at and saying a big school of fish, it all kind of moves around together and it changes direction. That's what we see with the candidate pool as well. They change direction together. I think that we all saw that in the last 18 to 24 months, which was, where did that 4-day work week come from? Right? I think a number of us, or almost all of us on the call, would say, you know what, it actually doesn't help the situation any, but it showed up. And I think that was directly coming from once the candidate pool realized they could ask for it and they were starting to get it. I think it just caught traction. So again, the candidate behavior from the past and from the present, again, evaluating, if that's changing and you're not making a pivot or a change in your process, again, for sure it's a time to call uncle, and assess the strategy going forward. This is a very dependable slide for you to take home and hang on to it if you don't already have it. There's 3 lines here: the attending seeking behavior, the resident fellow job seeking behavior, and the J1 visa seeking behavior. We currently have a client who's been with us a long time here at Practice Match. We are their sourcing arm. We are their recruiting team. They're in Arizona. They have the opportunity to engage J1s. They took a break from us here in the last few months. They did not need any residents or fellows, and they came on strong just recently because they are seeking J1 candidates. So really, this graph is very dependable. So one of the questions we get asked is, what's a good time to be sourcing? What's a good time to be out working your recruitment plan, to be, advertising and spreading the word about your organization? And the answer is every day, for the fact that the attendings are looking when the residents and fellows are dropping. And then you can see from the graph, everybody starts to get hot and starts to move through the process July through December. You might be saying to yourself, well, of course, we know that already. But I think that we still get many comments from the clients that we engage for client sourcing that are asking when they're evaluating using the service, when is a good time to engage? And the answer is, always, especially taking advantage of, just say, if you have J1 opportunities, for sure, it starts to ramp up hard in May, June, July, August. Here's one example of the AAPPR data. Again, it's good to, again, let's keep an eye on that candidate pool, right? That school of fish. What's it doing? Right. And right now it's getting longer to fill a position. It's up 4 days as a median, right? We're not talking average here. We're talking median, which is even more meaningful. And the other thing too is for APPs, it's up as well in 23. Again, this data is a year old. The report does not come out till the fall for this past year. So this is the 2022 data and the 23 report. And of course, the 23 data will be in the 2024 report. So this is the newest data available. But again, it's just a matter of just knowing this. It's getting longer and longer, which means the cycle is getting longer and longer, which means things aren't happening as quickly. But the question to ask is why, right? Why is it taking longer? Well, it's taking longer for the fact that we have seen that physicians are slowing down. I think you've seen this as well. They're slowing down in their engagement. There's more methodical in terms of coming to the table and really engaging. And that's what we'll talk about today, is how to make that happen a little quicker. Again, this is AAPPR data. It's not so much about the specialties that are listed here, right? It's about the fact that the one that's completely alarming is the urology, which is almost 1 year in terms of median days to fill. So one thing is if your organization is looking for urology, one of the things is don't get frustrated, right? You can see right here from the data, it's taking a median across the organizations that participated in this survey. Is taking them a long time to find urology. But it also, though, gives us an understanding that, again, things are getting longer in terms of finding that candidate. So it means we have to work more, or more importantly, work smarter or have a different approach. But again, this is nearing 1 year, and that is definitely way up from the last year's data at AAPPR. One thing before I leave this slide, the other thing though too, is it also gives us an opportunity to say to ourselves, if I have a particular process for sourcing my physician candidates, right? And I apply that exact same process across the board without giving any thought to or any leverage to different specialties. I think that might be worth revisiting. You don't have to change your process a lot, but I think that thinking that going the exact same process filtered over every single specialty, it will not be as productive as if you identify some of those harder to fill or some of those challenging, and really say, you know what, we have the same basic approach, but it's going to need to have its own little flavor to it. The last one here, again, it's the APPR data, but more importantly, this slide here is just to say, hey, we're all on this call on the same page, knowing that things are all over the board. And this is what I meant by what I just said, right? There are definitely in your organization specialties that are harder to fill than others, take longer to fill than others, I should say. And we had the same thing when I was in Cleveland, Ohio. In Cleveland, Ohio, we had a robust family medicine training programs among a number of 3 organizations in the Cleveland area. And it was not difficult for us to find family medicine physicians. We leveraged the network that was created there. Residents who, now are attendings, they would reach back in those residency programs and talk to their friends, and we had a little nice pipeline going. So for us, that was one. General surgery was another one we didn't really have a problem with. However, we had one of the largest urology training programs at the Cleveland Clinic in Cleveland, and we had a very difficult time uh, finding urologists for our practice. And that story is simple. We did not have 2 urologists in that practice who were robotically trained, and all the new physicians coming out were, and they were very hesitant, as all of you know on this call, that they should be, not having anyone to check off with while they're in the robotics lab, so that therefore we had a very difficult time finding a newly trained physician in robotics in urology to join that practice. What we did end up finding is an experienced robotically trained physician to come into that practice who was mid-career, and that helped us jumpstart for us to attract the new grads. The point is that is what I meant by being able to look at some of your harder to fills and say, you know what, the process is going to change. I can't use the exact same process all across the board for attracting candidates. So again, some of the slides here are good takeaways, right? Something to have handy to go back and look at. But I think that the key here is in the first step is really the assessment. And I did choose the word honestly, and what I mean by that is just kind of taking a step back. You're definitely looking at the past year's worth of at the same time where you were a year ago. The benchmarking is really important, kind of letting all the guard down and saying, okay, honestly, are we at a place where, what, September is going to cause us some heartburn, right? And the second thing is, the plan, right? Any plan is a good plan when you just go ahead and just decide to pivot, make a change, do something different. No problem with that. But more importantly, from this point forward, I'd say, really the focus should be on, coming out of the gates for sure in December and January, right? So in December of 24, January 25, coming out of the gates with a year-long plan that takes advantage of the fact that the physicians are looking all year round, as we saw in that slide and near the beginning of the presentation. And really, Right now, though, is it's okay to be able to just say, you know what, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to make a different plan. I'm going to start working that, and then make subtle, maybe even some step changes to your process to be able to see some different results. The other thing too is, I did when I was in Cleveland, I leveraged external resources. I tried different things. It was important to see that. Sometimes I would get engaged from an organization that would give me some very insightful information. Again, that was helpful then as well with that urology search. We knew that our compensation was in line with what was going on in the market. We knew that our signing bonus was too low. And then we also had a good understanding, of what that candidate pool was looking for, and it helped us be able to make decisions in terms of how my team was actually looking for a replacement for that practice. And then the last thing is, definitely making sure, looking at what's going on, seeing how things are going. Are you reaching your objectives? Are you getting to the places in your process that you wanted to in the manner of which you planned? And that's the monitor side of it. Again, the candidate pool definitely is like that school of fish, and sometimes our best laid plan it doesn't work as well as we thought because the pool changed a bit, while we were looking at and making changes. Do we have a question? Okay. Omni-channel marketing and campaigns. I shouldn't say that. Omni-channel communication campaigns. The messaging, the approach to how candidates are engaged throughout your process. One of the things is that I can stress here is the candidate-centric information that's put out to your candidates throughout your entire recruitment process. We have multiple physician panels that we host every year here at Practice Match, and we listen to what the physicians say. And one of the things I want to share with you is they said to us, pretty much work-life balance, you can write that down, but we want to know what that means at your organization. Just don't say it, show us how that works. And that's really important. The other thing is that they want to know that we are talking to them. They want to know what it's going to be like for them to experience your organization. They also want to know how their personal and professional goals are going to be met working with your organization. That gives you the opportunity throughout the entire recruitment process. We're talking from sourcing all the way through to the candidate, either you deciding to make an offer or not, right? So that's definitely through the site visit. And we know that's really important because they've been telling us in the panels it's really important for those conversations to be very candidate centric, right? And that is really from an omni-channel campaign for communication, for building your recruitment brand. It has to be consistent. And what's important for that is that not only is your recruitment team, the people who are conducting the interviews, scheduling the site visits, participating in possibly the site visits, but it's also on the physician side, the physicians in the service line or practice, right? Having that conversation that's very candidate centric and is talking about the opportunities to work for the organization that are going to help your physician candidate reach their professional and personal goals. It will actually impact your retention in a positive way, and it'll speed up your time to hire. So here's some motivations to make change, right? This is not, and this is really a great slide, right? This is from one of our sister companies, has put this together, but I think this is a great slide to talk about, right? This is to change, not to take the first role. So the less than 30, when I first read this, I was like, well, what are they saying? Compensation is least important. That's crazy, right? We have that conversation all the time, and that's one of the things that's a big driver for those who are new grads, in terms of consideration. No, that's not what this is. This is about change, right? So this is about all of the attending physicians on that graph that are definitely looking at the opposite time at, at, at certain periods of the year than the residents and fellows. Right? And having an understanding of the differences in what the age groups are looking at, or as this slide can say, the experience level for physicians, right, and what they're looking for. And this is when we talk about messaging. This is when we talk about not, having that standardized job description when you're looking for physicians, right, who are between, 40 and 59, right? The candidate-centric message in job description, in the email, in the text, in the conversations the recruitment team is having should be revolving around these things, right? When you're looking at somebody less than 30, it's around, the opportunities that you have listed here on this slide. So this is another great takeaway, right? So again, we talked about, right, as we're talking about the September Scaries, right? This happens way beyond now, right? These are the conversations you bake into your recruitment process. Again, starting now, but more importantly, making sure they're definitely there, at the beginning of 2025. Because what we see is those organizations that recruit heavily and they recruit effectively throughout the entire year, right? We don't see them scrambling, when September and October come around. But I think this is extremely insightful information. And again, it's about messaging. It doesn't cost anything, but it's not we can't boilerplate either all of the messaging and the job descriptions if we know that we have a certain target for experience level for our candidate pool because they're looking for different things. So we did talk a little bit about email. Is email dead? No, it's not. It actually is on the rise in terms of its effectiveness. Does a physician write back and say, "Oh, wow, I just checked my inbox. I was so glad that somebody emailed me, about an opportunity, right? I'm going to write back." No, because our physician panel as well has told us that they get a lot of emails. We've heard anywhere between 10 to 15 emails about a job opportunity at any given week. And we definitely know there are different times of the week that they get more than not. What the physician panels have been telling us is that the subject line is important for two reasons. They get so much email now, they won't open it if it's too vague. So all they're asking for is if you put in their title of the email what specialty, so they know it's for them, and where it is, and you'll have a higher probability of it being opened. But more importantly, right, it's about the message. It's again, going back to the previous slide, if you know what your target market is, in terms of a level of experience, what's written in the email should definitely reflect what they're looking for and should be candidate centric. And again, it's about having, the opportunity to have that physician read that and say, yes, this may help me reach my personal and professional goals. Texting, it's huge. We are aware of the fact that a lot of our clients in conversations we've had as well with other organizations that are looking for physicians to bring into their pipeline to be able to communicate with them effectively and efficiently. Texting is a big deal. I am confident that at some level in your recruitment processes, texting does occur. We did it extensively in Cleveland. It worked very well. It didn't work well in terms of having the opportunity to speak to physicians about anything in anything that was complicated, but it made our conversations, just like all of us in our personal lives, it makes it more efficient. So planning schedules, times to talk, talking about options for times to site visit, whatever it may be, it was certainly helpful. From a sourcing standpoint, texting has become extremely powerful for us here at Practice Match, for our client base. It is not it is not texting alone that works, but it is a combination of um, a cold call or a phone call that we make. That's part of our process. It is about being able to stay connected through the process, and being able to efficiently move through getting a candidate into an interview stage. More importantly, though, again, to impact the September Scaries is to be able to have a really efficient process. So, if texting is not part of your repertoire of communication tools, it has really been an extremely valuable tool for us here, not only in Cleveland, but also here at Practice Match. So the recruitment plan, we talked about this. Again, can happen tomorrow. Is definitely worth doing something. For sure, sooner than later. But again, being able to look at the cadence of your promotions, and what we mean by that is being able to address what kind of made me sit back and look at my process back in 21, which is the promotional cadence, right? Is the awareness, building that awareness. Not knowing your job is available is not going to help when it comes to being able to stave off the lack of candidates coming to the fall. More importantly, the marketing calendar and the recruitment tactics. There definitely, we talked about it earlier, for the tactics side, is to be able to have the ability to look at sources outside of your organization besides what you have going on in your process to supplement what you're doing. And to say, you know what, I've tried this and it works. I've tried this and it doesn't work. I'm going to try something different. Again, we're seeing from the candidate pool, and we're seeing this, in the process of recruitment as well. The physicians are definitely doing research on the organizations. They're doing research on your organization. They may engage on the front end, go through an interview, screening interview with your recruitment team, have a better understanding of the role, have a better understanding of your organization, and then may go back and do some research. Now, we are seeing fall off, and I know that you see it too. We call it ghosting, right? We're seeing fall off from candidates, as they enter the recruitment process, because they are doing research, they are doing their own homework, on your organization. It's kind of like when we go to Amazon and we buy a product off of Amazon, we'll step back and say, okay, I think I'm going to get that, but let me read the reviews, right? I don't pay attention to the fives. I don't pay attention to the ones. But definitely the fours, the threes, and the twos, if those all sound good, I'm really inclined to buy that product. And I think that's just indicative of what we're doing in our personal lives today, and it's flowing over into how candidates are reviewing opportunities to work for an organization. So as they move through your recruitment process, it's the same thing. Is the messaging consistent? Is it candidate centric? Are the physicians in the service line or practice, are they delivering the same message and the same vibe that the recruitment team is delivering as well? When we do talk about texts, here's some great statistics again from one of our sister companies. 73% of job seekers are targeted with text. 45% are using their mobile devices. Mobile devices, about 89% of it plays a role in job seeking. Like two-thirds of candidates are fine with getting a text about a recruiting, and 53%. This is the best here. 53% says that they reach out more quickly, when texting occurs. And I think that's the key here. And I think this goes all the way back to whatever strategy you're looking for. It's the timeliness. Right. We see a huge variation in timeliness around the country in terms of how organizations are engaging candidates. And timeliness is key, And that is, one thing we will talk about here shortly, is, what are you looking at? What are you benchmarking? How are you moving candidates through your process? And where should you be? Days to fill. I know that we talk about that a lot in our industry. I was definitely looking at that for a while. Days to fill are, it's a little complicated because uh, it ends up becoming, the negotiation, the contracting part of it. I'm not saying it's not important, but it's a part of the process again that we lose a lot of control, and so it makes a lot of sense to look at the things we can control in the recruitment process and say, hey, how are we doing? Can we go ahead and be good as we can, with what we're doing in our recruitment pipeline. Top ways that candidates learn about opportunities, right? Emails, job boards, texts, phone calls, and in professional networking. And these are in order of 1 to 8. One being the way that is the top way that candidates learn about us. You can answer this for yourself, right? If you just step back and say, you know what, do you get emails into your own personal email, that you have that are from Target or from um, from wherever, right? And they do show up, right? I'm not, I may not be looking at anything from Target, but I'm going to get it in my email and I'll just delete it, right? I won't read it. But the thing is that it builds awareness. And that's where emailing campaigns build awareness. And then once the awareness is there, then a job seeker would say, well, I'm going to look at a job board. And all of a sudden, bang, they get a text message from you about that opportunity. And they might be like, I've seen it in the emails. I actually looked at it on a job board. And then one of the things that works extremely well are phone calls to the candidate base. But more importantly, it is building that awareness, and that is again, uh, looking back and saying, do we have a cadence and do we have a game plan for emails? And the question that comes on around a lot is how often? 3 days. The dwell time for emails is 3 days. We have statistics that show within the first 48 hours of receiving an email, it gets read. And after that, the probability of it getting read is really low. It's not perceived as being anything invasive. It is definitely tolerated to get more than one. Right? But more importantly, it builds awareness. So this is one from another one of our sister companies. They work a lot in recruitment space in and out of healthcare, and they crunch some numbers, as you can see at the top. They're big numbers, but I think they're great numbers because they're so big. Gives a great insight in terms of what the funnel looks like, right? Because as the candidates move through the process, right, it slims down. We all know that, right? We all know that happens. But more importantly, I think this is a great slide to say, wow, if I am going to go ahead and benchmark my process, and change maybe some of the words here, but say, what, as the candidates move along from, we know that they're interested and we need to reach out to them to the point is where they're going to move into, we are going to make an offer or not, right? You can actually look at this and say, okay, great. I know it's a pipeline. I know it dwindles down, but what are some of the things that we know that are happening? So one of the areas, to focus on in terms of metrics is to say, if a candidate is exposed to your opportunity and they have either through your outreach or on their own connected with you, is if they've connected with you and say, hey, I'm interested, how long does it take for your organization to actually say, yes, we acknowledge you and we'd like to schedule that screening call? That's the first step. And the second step is once that gets done, it should, and one of the things, if you want to benchmark, I'll let you know that I think 48 hours is definitely the benchmark. Candidate reached out, said, I'm interested within 48 hours. The team needs to get back out to him, say, we heard you. And then to plan that screening interview. 5 days is generous for a screening interview to be scheduled once connecting with a candidate. We know that because I can say with confidence, all the candidates we speak to are definitely available within a 3 to 5 day window. So to be aggressive and to be a bit more timely, 3 days would be a great target. And once they have that screening interview, the next target is how long does it take for them to talk to the lead physician or to the practice manager in the practice, right? To get a better insight in terms of what it looks like, for that candidate to be part of your organization. Another 5 days there that should definitely be your target. So you're already looking at basically 12 days here. And then more importantly, if that goes well, how long is it going to take for that candidate to be able to speak to all the physicians in that service line or in that practice, or for that practice to say, we've met this candidate. Now, here's the one that really, and this is where we've seen all over the country, things get different. Things get wildly different. If you want to talk about targets, should be another 5 days, because it can be set up in advance. It can be set up in advance saying, I think we got somebody that we're interested in. The screening interview, went well, even though that candidate may have not interviewed with the practice manager or the lead physician in that practice or service line. You can go out that 10 days from that time and say, hey, let's get an interview on the books. So therefore, if it happens, great, it's already on the books. If it doesn't happen, you just cancel the meeting. Or you might have another candidate that pops up immediately and you just swap names. One of the other challenges we're seeing across the board is how long does it take to get feedback from the practice and the service line to say yes or no to whether or not they'd want to consider this person for a site visit. Again, how long is too long? 3-5 days. If your process isn't there, I struggled with this in Cleveland. We spent a lot of time and energy getting feedback, and it took a while, but to be able to make that change as well is extremely important. And then the last thing is then to schedule that site visit, to be on the phone and trying to get that scheduled then, within a couple of days after you get all the feedback that says, yeah, we want to see them. That is where I'm absolutely aware of and know that site visits can vary in terms of the amount of time it's going to take for that candidate to get to the organization. Can be based on time of the year, can be their availability, what their specialty is, when they can clear their calendar, what the calendars look like in your organization. I get that. But again, just looking at, where would I be from a benchmarking standpoint? Where can I look at my process? Can I just throw some stuff down and try to work for it? That's what I wanted to share with you. Again, external sources. Again, here at Practice Match, right, we have client sourcing. They're an extension of your recruitment marketing team. All they do is source. There's definitely other RPO services as well. We are one of them, but you can also get them as well. And then the last thing is our organization has marketing support available to you. They're an amazing group of people, but marketing support outside, of your department, is key. There's a lot of things that are happening in the recruitment branding space, that definitely help. We do see organizations and we work with organizations in client sourcing that definitely take advantage of marketing support and really put together, again, messaging, communication, a look and feel, where candidates definitely get an understanding of what it would be like to work for your organization and if your organization could meet their personal and professional goals. Consulting strategies that I work in, building the recruitment team, strategy for recruitment teams, for sourcing, pipeline efficiency, benchmarking, recruitment marketing, and then evaluation of the current recruitment staffing model. So what would be a good mantra then, right? Not only for this year to gain an advantage coming into the fall, but to definitely evaluate and put together a great game plan for next year, which would be we talk about pivoting here a lot, right? We pivot, monitor, pivot, and hold, and it's really, again, looking at benchmarks, looking at the process, looking at different specialties. Especially some of the specialties have a little different look and feel to them. They behave a little differently. But more importantly, honestly step back, say, you know what, we're not where we need to be, right? We're going to be creative. We're going to pivot. We're going to change our messaging. We're going to use some external sources, right? You monitor that change. If it works, hold it. If it's not working, no problem. Just pivot, right? One point doesn't make a trend. So if you pivoted, you're monitoring it, one little thing comes up. For the most part, it's working well. Just hang on to it. But if not, pivot and go again. And definitely, looking at, having just a benchmark, some data to benchmark where you're at and where you need to be is certainly important. I've talked to a couple of organizations where, it seems overwhelming to say, I don't have the data I need, or, it's hard to get the benchmarking data. It's there, and certainly it's available. It may be a little, it may be a one-shot opportunity to take a snapshot, of the benchmark you're looking for. It may not be like readily available to push a button, if you will, to get it regularly, but it can be done. And it plays such a huge and important role because, all organizations are different, right? So as much as external benchmarks, make sense for sure, there's also the opportunity internally. And if I could talk about that for a hot second, and I'm confident there's people on this call who experience this, right? So you have, two different specialties, and one specialty, when you're recruiting for it, you're putting the candidates in the pipeline, you're moving them through the recruitment process, and it's like butter. It is like scheduled, works like a charm. All different candidates that come through that service line. It just has a great cadence. It moves through, no hiccups, decisions are made, it's timely. So your organization, nothing's changed, right? It's your organization, you have a different specialty, and it's lumpy, right? The candidates are all in, they're very engaged, but you just know that you're that specialty in your organization. It just doesn't go smoothly. It takes a while for some things. Some things you got to ask a couple times. You're not really sure how things are moving. That's an opportunity to benchmark internally. It just is. To say, wow, if we can move candidates through this particular specialty in this manner, right? Where's the holdup in this other one? And you probably already know it. What's cool about that is that you need a, right? One point doesn't make a trend, right? So you're going to get pushback. But if you had two specialties that move really efficiently through your organization, then you can say, hey, we have these two specialties that are moving really well through our recruitment process for candidates, and we have this one specialty that it doesn't work that way. That is where you can do your internal benchmarking. Whatever the data may say it is, you just know that we have a couple that are really efficient, and we have one that's not. And then you can use with your physician leadership, right? You can help leverage that process and be able to make some changes or address what's happening there to be able to make it more efficient and move candidates through in a timely manner. Because we can definitely say with confidence, we have seen the organizations that win and get the candidates on board and in the organization are those that move them through the recruitment process very efficiently up into the contract, presentation phase, right? The offer stage. Again, we all know that the candidates definitely have a little bit of an advantage at that point, and it can slow down, and you do lose a bit of control. But moving them through the process in a timely manner and getting them, engaged and having those great candidate-centric conversations, those are the organizations that win. We talked a lot about all of this. There's two things on this slide that I want to address. One, we get asked about timing all the time. When should I follow up? Right, and this is all the way through from the first engagement with a candidate all the way through to the site visit being over and whether or not you're going to make an offer. Every 3 days. It's just every 3 days. Until the candidate and your team actually works out the fact that you have a very clear understanding from the candidate where they are in the process, right? If you're looking at scheduling the site visit and they said, I'm all in, I got to go 4 weeks out before I know, then you don't follow up every 3 days. but we're finding though is having, when I was in Cleveland and I'm, here at Practice Match, finding that until we've actually had that conversation with the candidate to understand where in the timing for follow up and what's happening with them and how we can best help them and be able to find a way to keep them engaged. It's every 3 days until you really got a great relationship and you have a clear understanding from them, where are you going to end up in the recruitment process, and can you stack hands on that and be able to determine, what the timing should be. The last thing is not interested candidate feedback. We started this about a year ago here at Practice Match. I got some feedback when I was in Cleveland. Did not really spend as much time on it as we do here. And the non-interested candidate feedback is when a candidate falls out of your process, right? Whether it's the very beginning or where it's halfway through or at the end before they get the offer. If the candidate falls out, if the candidate says thanks but no thanks, it is valuable information to have an understanding of why, right? And that is just key. Most of the time, we get feedback from the candidates as they move through the process, but when they fall out and they just say, I'm gone, I'm out, I don't want any part of it, to be able to garner that information, you will find to be extremely powerful and give you insight in terms of what may be challenging you to fill your roles. Key takeaways, again, just have a just an honest evaluation of your current strategy. Are you in the same place you were last year, or are you just not in a place you wanted to be this year? Right? Developing the plan. It includes recruitment marketing. It includes new tactics. Texting, we don't see as many of our clients texting as we thought we would. I think that's a huge advantage. Leveraging external resources for sure gives you some additional insight, gives you some outside understanding or a different viewpoint, as they say, fresh eyes on a process. And then, pivot and monitor. I think that pivoting on any process and trying to make things better or different is certainly not at all a waste of time. I think it's an excellent use of time. And it gives, again, the pivots give insight too. It's okay if something doesn't work as planned. Sometimes when they don't work as planned, it gives insight into why, or that thought it was a good idea, but it just didn't move forward. We'll give you an example. We have a sister company called Wake Research. We work on finding candidates for them, and they have developed some new strategies based on the fact of the candidate feedback that we're getting from physicians, and when they're looking for physician investigators for their research trials. And hearing from that, which is really kind of very niche candidate pool, but the feedback we're getting from that pool is that we have an understanding of what they're looking for and what would attract them to do this kind of work, what some of the roadblocks are for this type of work. And for us, it's been very an exciting opportunity for us to work on, as a team here in sourcing, but more importantly, it just accentuates and supports that, getting the feedback from the not interested candidates was huge in terms of us being able to be helpful and to have a better understanding and creating a better approach to, finding candidates and keeping them engaged for our sister company. That's all I got. Thanks for coming today. Any questions or any comments, any feedback?
I think we got all questions answered in the chat, but don't hesitate to reach out if any of you have questions. We will be sending a link to view this on demand shortly. Thanks for attending today. Have a great day.